Have you ever felt like, you understand English pretty well, like reading's fine, listening's okay. But then, when it's actually your turn to speak, it's like your brain just hits a wall.
Oh, absolutely. It's a super common feeling.
Yeah. You know the words, you sort of get the grammar,
Mhm.
but actually putting sentences together feels painfully slow, like a real struggle.
Mm-hmm. That's such a familiar frustration for so many English learners. Often you see the way we first learn focuses a lot on the pieces, the vocabulary list, the grammar rules,
Right.
but maybe not so much on training the brain for that fast, spontaneous process of actually speaking.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. Because so many of you get caught in this mental loop right before you talk. You're trying to build the perfect sentence in your head, checking the grammar, and this is the big one, translating word by word from your first language.
And that translation habit, that's a huge bottleneck. Seriously, think about it. Your brain's trying to do double the work. Formulate the thought here, then find the English equivalent over there.
Before you even open your mouth.
Exactly. It's just a massive amount of extra processing power being used up.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to give you some real strategies, ways to start training your brain to actually think in English. So speaking feels more automatically. Thoughts just flow out naturally in English. And the absolute first crucial step for that,
Yeah.
stopping that constant translation.
That's it. 100%. We need to explore why that habit, that translating habit you've maybe built up is actually holding you back. And then give you some practical things, techniques you can use like right away to bypass that internal translator and just start thinking directly in English.
Okay, let's really get into that. Why is relying on translation such a problem for speaking fluently?
Well, a really key thing to grasp is that languages just don't map onto each other perfectly word for word. English has its own sentence structures, its own idioms and expressions.
Like break a leg.
Exactly like break a leg, meaning good luck, right? Completely different words. And languages just structure thoughts differently. So if you translate directly, it often ends up sounding, well, unnatural or sometimes plain wrong.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I've heard learners say things that make perfect sense in their language, but in English they sound really awkward. Like all the right puzzle pieces are there, but they're put together in the wrong order.
That's a great way to put it. And the second big problem is simply efficiency or lack thereof. This constant translation, it puts a huge load on your brain, your working memory. Cognitive scientists talk about cognitive overload.
Right.
It makes it so much harder to speak smoothly because you're juggling too much. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while reciting the alphabet backwards. It just slows everything right down.
It really is like having a middleman for every single thought you want to express. No wonder it feels exhausting. So, okay, if we want to cut out that middleman, how do we actually how do we train the brain to think directly in English?
It actually starts really simply. The first technique is super straightforward. Just begin with single words. Right now, wherever you happen to be listening, just look around. What do you see? Try to just silently name the objects in English. Bed, window, lamp, book, phone.
Just the nouns themselves, not like that is a window.
Exactly, not yet. The goal here is just to build a direct link. Object, make, English word. No detour through your native language. If you do this consistently, even for short bursts each day, you start building those automatic, natural associations.
Okay, that feels doable. Very concrete. What comes after that? Once we're comfy just naming things?
Well, once those single words start popping into your head more automatically, you can add short descriptions, little phrases. So instead of just thinking book, you might think blue book or book on table.
Oh, okay.
Or instead of car, maybe red car or car is fast.
So still keeping it simple, but starting to connect a couple of words, describing things a bit.
Precisely. The focus isn't on complexity here, not at all. It's about getting used to forming these quick little thought units in English. We're just building that habit, training the brain step by step.
That makes total sense. So naming things, then short descriptions. What other practical ways can we weave this into our day?
Okay, the third technique is about your actions. Try to consciously think about what you're doing as you're doing it in English. So you're going about your day, maybe making coffee. Think, I am making coffee. Or I am pouring water, putting on your shoes. I am putting on my shoes, walking. I am walking. Just narrate internally.
Oh, I like that. It turns everyday activities into practice time without needing extra study time.
Exactly. You're basically training your brain to process your immediate experience, your actions, your intentions directly through English. And the more you do it, the more it just becomes the default. less and less translation needed.
Okay, this next one feels like it might be a bit more challenging, but I can see why it's important. What about when someone actually speaks to you in English?
Yes, this is a really crucial step. When someone asks you something in English, say, "How are you?" or "Did you have a good weekend?" Really try to answer immediately. Without doing that mental translation first. Don't translate the question, don't translate your answer.
So just, like, fire back a quick response.
Yeah. To "How are you?" just go with "Good, thanks," or "Pretty busy," or "Not bad," whatever feels natural.
That forces you to use the English you already have, doesn't it? Instead of leaning on the translation crutch.
Exactly right. It actively helps break that translation habit. And just as importantly, it makes your conversation sound much more natural. Native speakers, they don't usually pause to translate before answering simple questions.
Right, it flows much better.
Okay.
And you mentioned one more technique for daily life.
Yes, the last one is about using English for your sort of mental admin, your internal planning. So when you're thinking about your to-do list, try doing it in English. Instead of thinking in your language, "must buy milk," think "I need to buy milk." Planning your day, think "at 10 a.m. I have a meeting," or "after work I'll go to the gym."
So even shifting those silent internal thoughts over to English helps make it the brain's preferred language over time.
Precisely. It's all about creating this kind of immersive English bubble inside your own head.
These are all really useful, actionable things, small changes done consistently. Okay, now you said earlier that native speakers tend to think a bit differently. How does knowing that help us?
Ah, yes. That's a really important piece of the puzzle. See, fluency isn't just about vocabulary and grammar, though they're obviously essential. It's also about understanding the sort of typical ways native English speakers organize their thoughts and express them. That gives us clues for our own thinking.
Okay, so what are some of those typical patterns? How do native speakers often think and speak?
Well, one big one is a tendency towards shorter, more direct sentences. If you really listen to fluent speakers in conversation, they often break ideas down into smaller chunks. They don't always use long, complicated sentences with lots of clauses.
Can you give an example of that contrast?
Sure. Okay, so a learner, translating maybe, might construct something like, "If it would not cause you too much inconvenience, I was wondering if you might possibly be able to lend me assistance with this particular task."
Wow, okay. Very polite, but a bit wordy.
Right. Whereas a native speaker would much more likely say something like, "Could you help me with this?" Or even just, "Hey, can you give me a hand with this?" Or "Need some help here."
Much punchier, more direct.
Exactly. And that preference for directness, it also shows up in replies. Native speakers often give short, natural responses, not always full sentences. Someone asks, "How was your day?" You'll hear, "Pretty good. Busy. Not bad, you."
Yeah.
Much more common than say, "My day was quite satisfactory. Thank you for inquiring."
Yeah, definitely. So again, it's about being efficient, keeping the conversation flowing naturally. Less about crafting a perfect essay response each time.
Absolutely. And one more interesting thing is filler words.
Like, and,
Yes, but also words like, well, like, actually, I mean, sort of. Learners are sometimes told, avoid these.
Right, because they're not proper.
But in real spontaneous talk, they're actually very common. They buy you a little thinking time. And they can make your speech sound less robotic, actually, more human.
Okay, so they serve a purpose. Gives you a beat to collect your thoughts.
Exactly. Instead of just a blunt no, someone might say, "Well, actually, I don't think so." Or, possibly. The key, though, is moderation. Using them too much can definitely be distracting.
Gotcha. So to sum up those native speaker tendencies, think shorter, direct sentences, give quick, natural replies, maybe use a few filler words naturally. It's more about communication than perfection.
That's it in a nutshell. And for you, the listener, the idea is to start consciously practicing these patterns. Try thinking in shorter bits. Aim for those quick responses. Don't be terrified of needing an or a well sometimes. The more you practice this way of thinking, the more natural it'll feel. And please don't worry about mistakes. They're just part of learning.
Okay, so we've laid out the why and the how. Now it's time for action. What's our day one challenge for everyone listening?
Right. So for the next hour, just 1 hour to start, we want you to make a real conscious effort. Silently name everything you see around you in English. Look at your desk, your room, whatever's there. Phone, keyboard, mug, window. Just the English word. Remember, the key is direct thought. No translation first. Just see it. Think the English word.
Just building that instant link object, English word, in your mind.
Exactly. And if you're feeling up for it, take it one tiny step further. Try describing a simple action you're doing, a very short English sentence. Like you said, if you're listening now, maybe think, I am listening. If you take a sip of water, I am drinking water. Simple, direct.
And we genuinely love to hear how this first try goes for you all.
Oh, definitely. Please head down to the comments section. Let us know one thing you described in English without translating. And tell us, how did it feel? Was it easy, harder than you thought? We're really interested to hear about your experience.
That's your challenge for today then. Start making that shift. Consciously think in English, even just for this next hour. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this deep dive.
Yeah. The main takeaway, remember, is just start breaking that translation habit. Train your brain to think directly in English. It really is the foundation for speaking more fluently, more naturally.
And definitely make sure you join us for our next deep dive. We'll be getting into day 2, the secret to actually learning English vocabulary much, much faster. You won't want to miss it.
Absolutely. So if you found this useful today, please do consider following or subscribing. Maybe share it with a friend who's also working on their English speaking.
Keep up the great work, everyone. Keep practicing, and remember,
Think in English.